Hey family, this is Tanya Rutledge of the Nguzu Saba 365, wishing you as always a happy Habari Gani Humpday. And if you are joining us for our Habari Gani Humpday, hopefully this is not the first time you've tuned in. You know we have a special right now. We are doing our Habari Gani Humpday Kwanzaa special. And tonight, if you are unsure about how you celebrate Kwanzaa, we're going to clear that up for you. We have in this series talked about a model called the LESS model to address your holiday spending and how to spend for the holidays in an Afro-centered manner. We have addressed the principles of the Nguzu Saba and what Kwanzaa is and how you would prepare for Kwanzaa before Kwanzaa comes. But tonight we're going to talk about how you celebrate Kwanzaa. So we do all this with the assumption that you know the principles, that you know the items you should have purchased or gotten prior to Kwanzaa starting. We do that with the assumption of all that. But if you do not have that information, please go to the Nguzu Saba 365 our Facebook page and check us out, because there are videos on all this linked onto our page. So make sure that you check out those videos, and they are going to be timeless. So whether you were checking them out in 2020 or in 2025, really the game will not have changed very much. So without further ado, let's talk about how we celebrate Kwanzaa. So as you know, Kwanzaa is coming. When does Kwanzaa start? On December the 26th. If you're hearing the sound of my voice right now, it is actually December the 23rd. So you have a few days to get started. Hopefully you have already purchased your Kanara, and you already have your Mkeka made, and you have your Unity Cup, your Kuumba Chaumoja. All these things, you know what they are, and you've purchased them. If you have not, again, make sure you check out our earlier videos about what those things are. So now we want to talk about, what do you actually do each day? Because I think that is the question that most people have. But what do I do? So let's talk about that. Okay, so each day of Kwanzaa, this is what you will do. So someone in your home, when you all gather, and that can be in the evening. Some people need to do it in the morning in order to make it work for their schedule. I say just do it however you have to do it. We probably will end up having to do it partially through Zoom, because I may be the only person in the house and I may be doing it as a Zoom with my son. But someone in the home is going to say, Habari Gani. This is Swahili for what's going on or what's the news. Next, everyone else will respond with the principle of the day and then repeat the word Habari Gani. So if the first day is Umoja, you would be saying Habari Gani, and then the response would be Umoja Habari Gani, which basically means Umoja is the news. Umoja is what's going on. So after that, you would light the candle for that day. So if you take a look here, the writing is a little small, but I think this is a great illustration of how you light the candles, the order, because that tends to be a little confusing for people. So that very first day, you're going to light this first black candle, which is the Umoja candle for unity. And then from each day forward, you're going to alternate lighting the red candle at the end. So the farthest red candle, then on the third day, the farthest green candle, red candle, green candle, red candle, green candle, until all of the candles are lit. So you're always starting with the first day Umoja with the middle candle. Do not start at the end and just go this way. That's not the correct way to do it. You want to make sure that you're starting with the correct candle. And if you mess it up, it's okay. This is symbolic. Nobody's going to die or cry if you mess it up. It's okay. But we want to try to get in the habit of doing it the correct day or the correct way. After the candle is lit, Then each person drinks water from the Kikumbe cha umoja, which is the unity cup. The leftover water should be poured into the bowl of the crops that you'll have on the table as a libation. A libation is just basically a way to honor your ancestors. You're going to talk about the principle of that day. So you may want to make a pact or a promise for the year about that principle. So if the principle is kujichagulia, which is self-determination, you may want to individually make promises about self-determination or for that year, or you as a family, as a unit, may want to make a promise of how you guys will uphold that principle together as a family. Following that, you will shout or say 7 times, "Let's pull together," which is Harambeel. Most of the time that I've ever seen that happen, usually it's accompanied by almost kind of a black power fist into the air. So it would sound something like Harambeel, 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 Harambeel. After this is done, you can keep discussing that principle. You can keep discussing issues that are pertinent to the Black community, to the African American community, to our global Black community, and just enjoy each other. You can keep the candles burning during the evening, during conversations, but the candles will start to burn out. So if you have enough candles that you can replace them, let them burn. If you know that your candles are getting too low, you may want to burn them out. I have also seen, just to clarify this, people light only the candle for that day during their celebration. I've also seen, and the way that I do it is I light the candle for the day that I'm on and the candles that were previously lit. So if it is the 3rd day, which is Ujima, I would light the candle for Umoja, the candle for Kujichagulia, and then the candle for Ujima. So by the time I get to day 7, all 7 of my candles would be lit. Okay, but I have seen it done both ways. Now, you do not want to forget the Karamu. So what is the Karamu? The Karamu is like the Kwanzaa celebration. It is the feast. And it is very timely because it comes on December the 31st. So you can do this a little early in the day if you're planning to celebrate New Year's Eve in the evening, or this can be your celebration for that night. When my son was younger, we did a Karamu at the house, and we did it in the evening. So it was people's way to bring in the new year. And that was a wonderful way to bring in the new year. So this is kind of the cliff notes to it. So this is a communal and cooperative effort between people to hold this event. And if you can make it a large event for the community, that's wonderful. If it's a community for just your family and you have a large family or a large friend circle, that would be great. If it's just you and your 2 kids, that's great as well. So everybody participates. If it is only you and you have no one to share this with, consider inviting people over to your home. And if that's not possible, particularly in this time of COVID, do it on your own. Party with yourself. If you can Zoom it in with other people, go ahead and do that. But if it's just you, have it be just you. And then you can think about how later you might be able to incorporate others into your theme into your celebration, so it can be more communal and more cooperative. You're going to decorate in an African theme, which would be the black, red, and green colors that represent Kwanzaa and the collective Black holistic people. You also want to, if you're having some kind of a program, particularly if you have multiple people, have some kind of informative or entertaining programming before and or during the feast. And typically people will serve food of African American origin, traditional African foods, Caribbean, and South American recipes. So you'll see anything from greens and cornbread and big macaroni and cheese to jollof rice, plantain, stockfish, And it just depends on the culture of your family, what you are comfortable with and what you are aware of. There's no real right or wrong way to do it, but you generally want to stick to things that would be typically in the African tradition, whether it's African American or it's anywhere else in the diaspora. Okay, now if you are someone who wants more details, I am all in for you. I am going to try my hardest to pronounce each one of these events in Swahili, but if I mess up, you can feel free to let me know the error of my ways. I have never in a recorded way heard these terms stated. I've only, in Swahili, only in English. So for right now, I just want to stick with the English. So the suggested order by Dr. Milana Karenga of Karamu events is to have a welcoming, a remembering, a reassessment and recommitment, rejoicing, having a libation statement and the calling of names, the feast, and then the farewell statement. So let's dive just a little bit into what each of these are. And because the descriptions tend to be, when you look it up, very similar, some of the descriptions are not very descriptive, I'll say. I've been to a number of these celebrations. So sometimes when you can go, you get more of a feel for what these things will look like. So the welcoming in Swahili, I believe, would be Huka Rebisha. And that is the introduction and recognition of the distinguished guests and elders in the room. And then it generally is also going to include some kind of songs, music, group dancing, poetry, performances, unity circle. Next is the Kuumba, which is remembering. Now, for those of you who know that Kuumba is a principle of Kwanzaa that means creativity, you may be a little confused by that. Now, I was too, and I haven't gotten all the clarity on it, but this has been consistent that remembering is about Kuumba. So at this period, the things that I have read have been that it's a reflection of a man, woman, child, and cultural expression. So to me, I interpreted that as reflecting on the general pieces of our family and our community and upholding them. Now, the third thing that is done is the reassessment and recommitment, which would be Kuchunguza, Tena na, Kutoa, Ahadi, Tena. And this is an introduction of distinguished guests, lectures generally, and a short talk about looking at where we've been. So that's sort of the reassessment, particularly of the past year. And then the recommitment, committing to the principles once again, maybe looking at where we fell short and looking to recommit to do better. Okay. The Push Angela, which is rejoicing. There wasn't much of a description of that, but I see that as a continuation of the welcoming. So again, that's where your dance, your poetry, your singing, drumming tends to come in play. So you may enter with that and you may continue that, and that's your rejoicing. Next, we have libation statement and calling of names. So this would be the Tamshi la Tambiko and the Kutoa Majina. So our libations, if you've never seen them before, tend to be when water is poured into a plant, or it can be poured into that bowl of crops that you'll have, the museo, in remembrance of the ancestors. And this is done on all special occasions. So the Karamu is no different. You can pass among family members and guests. The cup that would either be, let me go back, that they would either sip from or making a sipping gesture to. And I've noticed that the passing of the cup tends to happen in smaller gatherings. I haven't seen that as much in larger gatherings. And if they did pass the cup, aside from just pouring it into the crops or the plant, they only passed it to those who were maybe up at a table or an altar in the front of. Okay, now there is a libation statement that I actually found on the website for the US organization and Dr. Milana Karenga's site. And this statement of libation goes as follows. So after each statement, everyone in the crowd would say libation and the water would be poured. So for the motherland, cradle of civilization, for the ancestors and their indomitable spirit, for the elders from whom we can learn much, for our youth who represent the promise for tomorrow, for our original people, or for our people, the original people, for our struggle and in remembrance of those who have struggled on our behalf, for umoja, the principle of unity, which should guide us in all we do, for the Creator who provides all things great and small. And next, we would allow for the calling of names of people who passed. So generally, I have heard people say, please call out the ancestors that we have lost over the years. And that is what is done. Next, we have the actual feast. So this is the Karamu. Most people call the celebration itself the Karamu. I'm not particular. Maybe I should be more particular. I call it just the Karamu, but the actual feast is technically the Karamu. So again, delicious African-American, traditional African and Caribbean food. South American food is generally served. A lot of times there is a large Mkeka that it can be placed in the center of the floor or in the center of a room where food can be placed creatively so that all people can serve themselves. Obviously, when you are in group settings and large group settings, it may look different than this, but that is really your goal. Okay, lastly, there will be a farewell statement, a Tamshi la Tutaonana. Okay, so that I never saw if there was anything specific that was said during that statement, so I'm not going to share any specifics, but typically you're going to have some kind of a closing and farewell statement. So if you do not have your tools or your shopping list put together and done for Kwanzaa, it may not be too late. Make sure you check out our How to Get Ready for Kwanzaa video. And if you don't understand the principles that are behind this holiday, make sure you check out our video about the 7 principles of Kwanzaa or the Nguzo Saba. If you have no money, if you have no resources, if everything is closed because it's a pandemic and it's also going to be Christmas Eve tomorrow, do not fret. You could make these things. You could literally say symbolically, I want to participate in this, so I'm going to make these things and I'm going to place them symbolically on a table as if they are the real thing. You also have 7 days that you can partake. So if you are not ready on the 26th, nobody will know if you end up having to wait till the 29th until the shop is open for you to maybe go get your kanara, okay? So just hang in there, do the best that you can, and thank you so much for listening. I want you to like, share, follow, and stay principled, family. Until we meet again next week, love you all.